A large part of our everyday life is in the virtual world. What is its impact on our mental health?
Okay, so the question really relates to about the virtual world and its impact upon overall psychological well-being and functioning. I suppose the answer lies in a variety, it's in a whole broad spectrum of issues, and that can go from people who are taking selfies incessantly, sometimes in very dangerous positions, and you would only have to look at the news to see that a lot of people are actually dying because they've taken a selfie on top of a hill and they've fallen off that hill, for example. But on a more sort of general level, what I worry about is the fact that a lot of youngsters particularly, so we're talking mainly about school-going kids, college-going kids, they tend to be living more in the virtual world than having direct relationships with people. And that cannot be a very good thing, simply because you're not actually having a conversation face-to-face, somebody in the real world, but you're having that conversation in a very artificial format on one of these social media platforms. And you're not actually sitting down and conversing with anybody. So you're not really having a lot of meaning in those relationships. Now, there's an old saying that when you're thinking about friends, you'll have one good friend, and if you have got one good friend, you consider yourself to be pretty lucky. If you've got two good friends, you're very lucky. And if you've got three or more good friends, you've got it wrong somewhere. And what I mean by a good friend is somebody that you can sit down and talk to about your innermost problems and conflicts. And I can't see how that's being done on social media particularly. And I'm not saying that it cannot happen. I think it's a bit more artificial to have such a fantastic, friendly relationship unless you actually sit down with the person and talk to them in the real world. What we are beginning to see a lot in the Western world is, particularly for younger people, is the fact that there's a lot of bullying and cyberbullying going on in social media and platforms. And tragically, that's led to a lot of adolescent ill health and mental ill health, mental unwellness, and even suicide. So this is absolutely very, very tragic that somebody's just beginning their life and they've committed suicide because of something that somebody said to them, or being trolled, as it were, on social media. And I think that this is really, really sad. So parents have a role to play here. I think it's important if you're a parent of somebody who's an adolescent, to make sure that they're not spending all their time on social media. And if they're beginning to get visibly distressed by a conversation or an interaction on social media, please have a chat with them. I think there's a general point about having a real conversation with a real person in a coffee shop, for example, as opposed to sitting strapped into your chair and having conversations with the whole wide world from a laptop. And there's a huge, although it may have some advantages from a different perspective, from a psychological perspective, I don't think that's very, very good. And if you've got a mental illness to begin with, that might only compound your sense of loneliness and isolation. It certainly doesn't serve as a substitute to having a real relationship with somebody face to face on a couch together. Not at all.